Dear guests, dear speakers, experts, I would like to warmly welcome you to the panel called DefenseTech, obviously Ukrainian Defense Tech Opportunities and Risks. But before that, I would like to announce you a special session that we're going to be having after the DefenseTech panel, the spotlight session with our special expert in cryptography, Vadim Lubashevsky. He's going to be talking about modern cryptography, and he's going to explain you why your encrypted data is not safe and actually was never safe. New developments and trends, and about the future of cryptography. So please stay put after this session on defense. With that being said, let's jump into defense tech. Ukraine now is fighting back Russian full-scale invasion since February 2022 is more than a year. And of course, the major factor in that is brave, strong, resilient Ukrainian people. Sons and daughters of Ukraine, they are there on the front line, to whom we are immensely grateful now. But we also know, obviously, equipment and hardware is critical in any sort of war. And Ukrainian army was historically relatively big. It is now enjoying the support of our Western partners, and also the legacy defense industry was quite relevant in the global scale as well. But recently, due to demand and changes and challenges on the battlefield, we see the development of multiple initiatives and technologies that we would like to discuss. Yes, that being said, let's start our panel on defense tech, opportunities and risks. And I would like to kick off with the introduction round, which each and every of our speakers will do themselves. I would ask you to take 2-3 minutes for a short introduction, who you are, what you do, and just present yourself. Thanks.
My name is Alexey Boyarsky. I'm a professor of physics who was working on particle physics and cosmology all my life. When then the war started, I decided that particle physics and universe will be there for another 10 billion years at least, so it can wait. And started to work on defense projects together with my former, current, and future students and colleagues. We are doing many projects. One of them is already working in Ukraine. It's a project where we develop a methodology to detect air targets using sound acoustics. We have about 6,000 of sensors working in the field in Ukraine, and we made already thousands of individual detections of the air targets with this system, which is actively used by both Air Force and Ground Force air defense. And all this was mainly done by Ukrainian physicists working in many countries.
Alexey, I would like to ask you not to spoil too much about that particular project. We're going to touch that a bit later. Igor, maybe?
My name is Igor Fedyrko. I'm the founder of the Boroviter Military School. We trained nearby 1,200 military men and women per month in 11 sectors, including the telecommunication, radio intelligence, radio warfare, topography, military psychology, etc. We are the best school in the state program Army of Drones, and also I'm the developer of the founder of the Vector Optical Laboratory, which repairing the optical devices, including thermal vision devices, night vision devices, monoculars, binoculars, and all the military optics. And so that's all.
Yeah. Could we jump to our speakers online? we should have Dmytro Shimkiv and Alexei Bornyakov online. Yeah, and I see Alexei. Hello.
I'm Alexander, just in case. Yeah, but okay, let's probably start with me. So I'm Alexander Bornikov, and I work for the Ministry of Digital Transformation in a capacity of Deputy Minister. And for last 3 years, we were doing everything we can to develop and grow startup ecosystem, venture ecosystem, and IT industry in general, from policy making perspective and for doing numerous projects to improve the situation. And since the war, full-scale invasion emerged, we were kind of changing our focus. And right now, we recently launched Project Brave One, which I'm coordinating from Minister of Digital Transformation side. But this is kind of mutual project of Minister of Defense, General Staff, Minister of Strategic Industries, Minister of Economy. So we're probably going to talk about this later.
Yeah, we're going to jump to that. My apologies about my mistake, Alex.
No problem.
Sure. Dmytro, do we have?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi,
hello. My name is Dmytro Shimkiv. In the current capacity of this discussion, I'm partner and business development director of Ukrainian startup Aerodrone. We manufacture heavy payload, long range, and high endurance UAVs. We have 2 models, one with capacity to carry 80 kilos and another one with 300 kilos. We've been certified by the Ministry of Defense. We currently executing a contract with the Ministry of Defense. And we also are the resident of DS City, which is actually a great platform for, I've overheard the previous panel, and DS City become open to the military tech as well. Also together with Alex, we are sitting in the board of Ukrainian Startup Fund, or National Fund for Innovations. And this is actually the fund that supervises one of the program, which is Brave One. And I think this is a fantastic initiative that's been brought forward by Ministry of Digital Transformation.
Cool. So all the questions about drone and drone technology will be aimed to you. We're going to come to that a bit later. And now, Misha.
Hello, everybody. Misha Dominsky. I'm co-founder and CEO in a company called Promin Aerospace. We focused on the new type of solid propulsion for rockets, mostly before 1st of February 2022. We were mostly focused on the civil applications, but we kind of reviewed our strategy since that time and currently looking into implementing our technology with certain manufacturers in Ukraine and internationally. Apart from that, in the last year, I've joined the team of Chimera Radios, where we develop secure communication radio stations for Ukrainian armed forces. By the end of this month, we will have delivered probably around 1,000 pieces to the front lines, and we're pretty much only starting the mass manufacturing. And as it was already mentioned, Brave One, I'm also a selection committee member in the Ukrainian Startup Fund, and recently launched Brave One initiative. Thanks.
Perfect. And the last one in this part, Mauro, I would like to do the introduction, and maybe we jump to your part again. After the introduction, I would like to ask for Mauro to set the stage, because we need a bit of background. Any discussion about Ukrainian defense tech is not complete about some historical analysis and the state kind of before. So please proceed with that.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Mauro Gigli. I'm a senior researcher at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, the Polytechnic of Switzerland. I studied the Ukrainian defense industry by accident, actually. So I was studying, my main area of research is industrial espionage in defense. And I was trying to understand, for a project that actually got me funded by the US Department of Defense, I was trying to understand why China really struggled in some small niches. And coincidentally, at one point, I realized that in those niches, China was really trying to get help from Ukraine, which was really surprising and interesting from my background, because what we hear every day is about how China has made major advances. So why was it struggling where Ukraine actually had arrived? And so that's how my connection to the Ukrainian aerospace and defense industry. And can I start with the presentation? And my slides are way longer than the time allows, so I will try to be short, but still provide, for those of you who don't know it, a quick background of the aerospace and defense industry in Ukraine. I want to start from this picture. Unfortunately, you all know it. It's one of the most important battles, really, since the war started. And it gives us an idea of the massive destruction suffered by Ukraine. But most important, it tells us also about the capabilities, the industrial and technological capabilities of the Ukrainian industry, namely the destruction of the largest airplane ever developed and the heaviest one. So it's a long story. I'm not going to take too much time in it, but it really speaks loud about how Ukraine has this very important niche industrial base, and the plan is, in fact, to rebuild this aircraft, which at one point was intended for the space shuttle Buran. In this regard, this is the story I was telling you. That is, in 2019, all newspapers around the world that speaks about China trying to buy an aero engine company in Ukraine, because China has a massive challenge in developing aero engines. And this is where my connection with the Ukrainian aerospace and defense industry started, because I was really trying to understand how that is the case. And the most important answer, which is going to be essentially the one line I want you to remember about my presentation, is the key essence of high technology is, at the end of the day, people. High technology depends on people who have know-how, who have expertise, and know how to solve extremely demanding and difficult technical problems. And this company, then, of course, the US government interfere to impede that China buys it. And this company is, in fact, very prominent for the production of aero engines of different type. And what is interesting is that this is not the only case. This was, to me, again, extremely fascinating, that the same is true for the space industry. That is, Ukraine has also very important capabilities in the space industry. In fact, this article from the Daily Valley, a German outlet, spoke about how the war could really impact the supply chain of the space industry and the launchers. So Ukrainian companies have played a key role, for example, in Vega. And of course, also in this case, China tried really to cooperate with Ukraine to address some of the technological challenges that was kind of impeding its advances. I don't want to take too much time, so just for you to know, so these are satellites, launchers. The same is true, this is a recent article in the Neue Zürcher Zeitung, the most important newspaper in Switzerland, that says Switzerland is the Silicon Valley of Eastern Europe, which again, to me, was kind of confirming this background of how the people really play a key role. And as I was saying, I could go, there are many companies. The most important aspect I want you to know is that the defense industry is an extremely concentrated industry. What it means that there are very few companies that can actually produce some components of some systems. And what is interesting is that Ukraine is active in many of these parts of the supply chain, with some simple systems, radar systems that are extremely demanding, and of course you have a much longer list. Don't want to take, as I said, too much time. We get to drones, and this is also an aspect of the past 9 years. That is how Ukraine has been very active in innovating during war, which we know is very, very challenging for all the kind of problems you face in a time of war. These are pictures, I'm sure you have seen it. The use of drones has get plenty of attention. Two aspects I want to mention in this regard is, for example, how the Ukrainian government, some of you unfortunately might have direct experience with this, developed this app that allows Ukrainian citizens to play a fundamental role for air defense, that is early warning, that is with their mobile phone, they can once they see a drone, a missiles, an aircraft, they can take a picture and provide immediate geo-coordinates of this incoming missile. This is central. So all the time you hear about a missile or a drone and an aircraft being shot down, this happens because you can detect them at long range. If that doesn't happen, it's extremely difficult. So this type of innovation, which is extremely intuitive, but still it wasn't done before, played a really important role. And of course, there are other companies. So for example, in terms of simulations, really training, the war has reminded us and taught those who didn't know before that again, in the time of high technology, people are extremely important, also on the battlefield. You might have the best technology, but if your soldiers don't know what to do and don't know how to do it in the time they need to do it, they will fail. And so this company has come up with a training or simulations for really training soldiers, for example. Other systems that of course have invested in drones and they have played a big role during the conflict and we all have heard about. I'll stop here because I don't want to speak too much, which I unfortunately generally do, but any question or follow-up is very welcome.
Yeah, great, Mauro. Thanks for the overview. Any addition from our expert about the legacies kind of state of Ukrainian defense? Right, then we're going to jump to the second kind of part, second questions. We connect in the first question to the question of how can we systematize the new trends and what's appearing on the market in the industry. Well, we can put the connection like what could we keep from the legacy that was there that you described. The map of Ukraine was kind of dotted with all the enterprises and so on. What could we keep, but which areas should have been built from scratch? What did we build from scratch in the defense? Ihor?
So, first of all, I think that we should start from the education. It's the biggest problem in Ukraine now. So we know that now we are like the platform for the experiments. All the countries around the world try to give us some weapon of choice and some the new system that, but without the education. So as well, it's the drones, the FPV drones, so which produced a lot in USA, and some kind of them we received from United States, and now we build the system of education for these systems, which we never used before, but it's really efficace in French. Effective. That's really effective. In our school, we also use this system like Strata 22. We use the education system for the Ukrspec systems PD2, PD1. I am the certified pilot of Ukrspec systems PD2. And so we created lots of that we never used before. It's the anti-tanks rocket systems. We never used before the Javelins, we never used before the Matador and other. We never used the rocket system with the lasers.
Designator.
Yes, laser range fires. Yes, thanks a lot. And so the another place, another war, it's about anti-drone systems. So we use lots of radio warfare, radio intelligence, and lots of this system we produce now. We start to produce it, to use it really well. And also it needs really well prepared military men or military women. And we spend a lot of time, lots of money for this kind of education. So, you know, it's, I think that before the 2014, we doesn't have the army. So, but now, if we compare, we rebuilt it from zero. It's, if you touch any sector, in military sector, you will see that we are create something new in all of them. It's not about just a telecommunication. It's about the military rules, the military, the new military system, the new military commands. So we are. I think that now we are rebuild our army, and it will take lots of time to explain all of this system. So.
Okay, Misha, maybe from you.
Yeah,
What new areas are appearing in the industry?
I think to talk about what's new, like just short on the legacy side, right? As mentioned by Mauro, we have the on the legacy side, we talk about like rocketry, both defense focused and previously, but not recently, but previously on the kind of orbital launch too. We have a really advanced school of engineering connected to rocket engines. Hopefully, we will see in the recent year or two some of them actually being used for some of the ballistic type of multi-launch rocket systems. I really hope for that. And yeah, that is something. It needs a lot of upgrade. It needs a lot of the manufacturing and R&D needs to be kind of refurbished and brought back to life. Because historically, even after 2014, a lot of it was not kind of focus development by the government, because most of that is happening in the state-owned design companies and manufacturing companies, and the issues there's not like management that owns shares in the company and is focused on the profit. It was mostly the strategy was mostly it should be usually delivered by the government, and it was not done over the last up until the full-scale invasion started. Even after 2014, a lot of those state-owned companies kind of did whatever without having a proper focus, and the government didn't fund them properly, and the government didn't give proper tasks for them. But there is still technology, and I hope with kind of more clarity that we received over the last year, I hope the government gives a more precise strategy for those state-owned enterprises to develop based on. On the side of kind of new technologies, right? Specifically drones. We had a couple of companies working since 2014. Let's say before 2014. Privately owned defense-focused manufacturing was probably existent, but on a very kind of low grassroots level. There was not like companies that were really innovating and trying to create something that is a world-class product. Since 2014, many companies were created, and since 24th of February 2022, pretty much the growth became exponential. So we can see that in drones is one thing, and it's probably government and media, and there's a lot of focus on the kind of new types of drones created, but we can also talk a bit of self-advertisement, obviously. We work in rocket engines and also secure communication systems. There are also really this cool system like, I won't talk about it, but where you have software both on cybersecurity side and, for example, awareness of the battlefield and air rates. So there are a lot of this innovation happening, which pretty much didn't exist before this full-scale invasion. And I think drones secure communication systems. I think we can do more on the weapons side, because it's really specifically guns, rockets, because it is monopolized by the government in many ways currently, and I think the government should allow more private businesses to go into this, because we're currently doing everything around. Something that supports you to wage war or to defend yourself, but not the main thing. The main thing is still kind of monopolized by the government, and I think this is the area where the Ukrainian government should give a bit more freedom to the private enterprises to be able to actually create more advanced weapons, rocket systems, and so on.
Yeah, a really good point, Misha, here. About the monopoly, we're going to touch a bit later as well. Any comments from online guests? Dmitro, Alex? We talked so
maybe
far. Yeah.
Yeah, I can probably I can add a few things on the capabilities. I think we need to look into the history of the world. We very often like to quote Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley started not, from fantastic software developers. It started also not from plums and peaches. It started from the development of the military equipment for submarines and radio electronic equipment for radars. So this is a fundamental work and engineering, including previously electrical engineering and radio technology, which is again about secure communication, optics, etc., which enabled to create a foundation for the future growth of the Silicon Valley. And that's exactly the same thing which is happening in Ukraine right now. If we're talking about the technologies that are emerging, and in many places in the world, there is a technologies being tried, developed, tested. The question that in Ukraine, the pace of innovation is absolutely different because we try, we develop, we test, we try, we don't like it. Military says we don't like it, it's not comfortable, replace it. We go to the field, you get jammed, you look to alternative solution, your CRPA antenna is not working, you need to find a better one, you need to look into other technology. So the pace of innovation is on the different scale, and the quantity of people involved in this is also big. So if we also talking about technology where we are lagging, and there is a few startups in Ukraine which are doing this. For example, optic systems. This is a big area. Big area which the world is actually only developing is using AI for image processing on the different pace and speed. And then, of course, the processing radio imaging. We're talking about radars imaging, which requires a heavy load of AI processing. Another area is secure communication and building equipment for building mesh networks, or basically money networks, which is a standard way of building TCP/IP network that can enable a dynamic moving ad hoc IP network with different appliances attached. That's a big area where development will take place. We're currently using primary foreign components for that. Rockets being mentioned. I think that the government is actually opening more regulations for ammunition production or adaptation of different ammunition. And then, of course, the variability of different scenarios, what could be used for different military needs.
Yeah, great. Thank you for the comment. So according to our expert, we have a lot happening in the areas of optics, as was mentioned, in drones, in education, in communication systems. With all that emerging enterprises and innovation and startups, we can say, how the platform like Brave One can contribute to creating opportunities in the area, what kind of support, what kind of success factors should be taken into account, and so on. And then obviously it's a question to Alex here. The stage is yours.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Well, I just heard what Dima said, and just like to add to this that being in numerous meetings around the world and in Ukraine too, about what's going on in Ukraine from DefenseTech perspective, or generally developing of military and defensive industry, I always hear one same thing, that usually it takes years to bring this up to speed or bring it to the battlefield or the stage where it's going to be used by military. In Ukraine, it's 6 months or even sometimes even faster. And that's our big competitive advantage right now. So I think we now on the edge of something big, and once we win, we can build one of the biggest defense tech industry, and not just defense tech, but defense industry in the world. And this kind of bringing me to Brave One vision, because we realized that even before the war, but when full-scale invasion started, we kind of came back to this matter and decided that we as a policy-making body and as a government should do everything we can to provide all kinds of support. And at some point, this was like, what we're going to do publicly to attract attention and gather all stakeholders in the same place. So that was basically the idea behind Brave One. And the vision was that we, at some point, could become another DefenseTech, Silicon Valley, or Israel, because their conflict on their land, again, allowed them to emerge their technology sector, and billions of dollars that lately came in. They were part of some part. They were also aimed to support defense projects. Now there are a number of multi-billion-dollar worth companies there, and also like Europe and America is also an example. So I think the vision, long-term vision, is to have in Ukraine, after the war, like 10 plus multi-billion dollar worth company and hundreds of multi-million worth companies. That's from private sector, which will export their products around the world. And since we had this economic surge and drop of GDP, this will definitely help Ukrainian economy to get back on track. And now, when we launched Brave One, the idea was to let everybody in Ukraine that if you're doing something that brings us closer to victory, this is where you can come. You can apply, and we will study, we'll see, review your application from many angles, not just Ministry of Digital Transformation, but everyone in this government will evaluate this idea. And based on requests from the developer, like I want investments, I want a fast track, I have problems with the degrees and the laws, we will get back with relevant support. Brave One provides 10 plus different kinds of benefits, starting from networking. Then we can give grants to different, like to early stage companies. We're going to provide investment support for later stage companies. We definitely in touch with all the militaries and Ministry of Defense. So I think we can do a great job on bringing this faster to the front line and help with the paperwork and relevant documents to make it official, because this is really a regulated environment. And sometimes we see developments that being done in garage, and people, they're brilliant engineers, but they don't know how to make it the way the Ministry of Defense could procure them. So this is a huge problem for them, and we aim to solve it too. Well, I could talk a lot more, but to summarize, that we as a government decided at some point we need the one platform that everybody knows about, and if they have idea, prototype, small production, or even serial production, they have different kinds of problems, starting with financing, finishing with regulation, they know where to go. They don't have to look anymore for some personal contacts, for intermediaries, for liaisons, and that's the official place where you can come and you get help. Thank you.
Perfect. Sounds like a great starting point for a startup. I have a comment on question. I have a little follow-up question, organizational maybe. I've heard it's a project in cooperation between 6 ministries. Was there or is there a challenge to manage the whole thing?
Well, that's quite funny, but that's the reason that we were launching for like, we're trying to launch it for 8 months or so. If it's not about like 6 minutes, we would have launched it in, I don't know, in a month. So that's exactly why we're doing it. So, but we managed to do it, and it was kind of like flattering, and it was positive for me to see that like everyone in those 6 minutes is understand that we need to do it, and this is not about competition. It's not about like personal agenda, but it's about like winning the war and finish this horrible thing that's happening now with our nation.
Absolutely. Dmitro, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I just want to give also what Alex was saying, and to give a big picture of the ecosystem which is currently being established in Ukraine for the military tech.
I think there are troubles with connection. Maybe we take a comment from Misha in the meantime.
Yeah, I just want to say that subjectively, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, and not by choice, but it was kind of forced on us, that Ukraine is currently the best R&D and testing range, and also as a result, advertising platform for defense-focused products and innovation. And historically, if you would be more or less successful Ukrainian defense manufacturer, most likely you would be forced into the Ukroboronprom structure, and you would have to deal with a lot of corruption and kind of being controlled in what you can do and cannot do. For me, Brave One is it's a start of this more of not changing and not controlling how the defense companies and military companies are working, but more of supporting, helping, in certain ways guiding, connecting with the right people, solving the issues enforced on us by our legislature in Ukraine, all the permissions, certifications. So Brave One is kind of in certain way opposite to what Ukroboronprom was, and is trying to be more of you do what you do, we try to help you. And it's only 2 weeks since you launched, so hopefully this is what it's going to be.
Completely frozen, and actually the next question is kind of his specialty, but we're gonna start maybe with other expert. We hear constantly, we hear really a lot about drones, at least like the general public. So let's discuss the topic of what the drones are bringing, what they could bring, where the industry is going in this regards, and this may be a question to Ihor here.
Okay. It's work. So yeah, first of all, I want to say that it's what has happened that has never happened before. It's when the 6 profile ministries try to create some platform for the people, for the creators, and it's amazing. And and we are like a society have high hopes for these projects, first of all. About the drones, yes, in Ukraine, I think that this is one of the best sectors. So we are, every day maybe we hear about the new project, the new system of drones. It's FPV drones, UAV, it's the plane system, UAV systems. So and then it's lots, and they create the new one maybe every day. So we have maybe now we have the most effective type of drones. It's FPV because I think it's you have the immediately you can immediately to see how it's worked and which kind of damage it's produced. So and we have lots of engineering teams which works in this sector, and we have from the smallest one to the tactical and strategical kind of drones. It's like a PD2, it's the huge drone. And I know that Dmitro also produced some kind of these drones. And and if we go down, so we have like a tactical tactical level drones. It's like the Shark, Mini Shark, Leleka, lots of this. If we go more down, so we have the multi-rotary drones. It's like we use a lot of DJI, so it's the basic level, I think so. And we in this sector we produced also the drones, the huge one, quadrocopters. It's like the Kazan, and this with the system of dropping the bombs, and so I don't know what I can say more, because this information I think that's not so open, but we try to produce it, we try to test it, and maybe the government in this position, they help us a lot. So they give us the platform when we can test it in the anti-drone systems, with the dropping systems, with the, so because it's sometimes it's explode, and we need some spatial kind of platforms for this, and the government give us the support. So, and I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe it's.
I see Dmitro is unfrozen. This is obviously your favorite topic. So we're discussing now the drone industry.